Okay. Okay, so that's recording now. Great. Okay, so I'm going to put us in gallery just quickly. So show of hands, who has made a reel before? Okay. So I'm going to guess that there's maybe some things you're not quite sure how to do that you've seen and you'd like to be able to do. Is that right? Yeah. Got to remember ever to figure out how to stop getting the writing in the whole reel and just put it in bits of it.
That's my point. That's what I want to learn.
You'll discover that today. Once you know, you'll be like, oh my God. Okay, great. So what we're actually going to do is make a reel. And you can choose to do that during this session, or I am going to send the recording to you guys that have found. Let me just take a little note. And then you can have a go afterwards. But the recording's only going to be up for a week. And the reason till the end of this week. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think, I don't know about you, but if I have access to recording indefinitely, I will never watch it. So I'm thinking that we're here investing the time today to actually get better at something, that the more you do, it gets way more fun and way quicker. So it's really, really worth like just getting going. And if there's one thing you take away from the session today, let it be messy action. Yes, I know we want our Instagram to look really brilliant and professional, but you know, there's a phrase, isn't there, that perfection gets in the way of progress. And if we're waiting for it to look brilliant, we'll just never do it. So don't be afraid. I'm not saying just put anything and everything out there. Do have a think about whether it aligns with what it is you're trying to do. And the social media session tomorrow night is going to talk more about that if you can join that. But it's around sort of, I would rather that you did a reel a day that was you drinking a cup of tea, which is the reel I'm going to do today, rather than having to kind of set out your like whole massage couch, or you know, do loads of really have your full hair and makeup done before you talk to camera, or you know, because actually being relatable is way more appealing. You start to put content out every day. I know content sounds like content, but just go with some of the lingo. If you put content out every day, the algorithm will start to learn who you are trying to talk to, and it is actually there to work with us, not against us. So using words in what you're saying, using words in your captions, using words on your reel is going to help it learn, okay, this is someone who's putting out content about, we'll talk about content pillars tomorrow as well, but at the very least, organic skincare. And so people who I know, who Instagram knows kind of that look at organic skincare might like to see this, and so it'll show more of your content. And the purpose of reels is reach, attracting new people to follow you. We'll talk about this tomorrow, but we're not necessarily trying to sell in a reel. We're not necessarily trying to do anything too clever. We're trying to get people to take a look at our grid and have a look in our highlights and read our bio and decide if they're going to follow us. So it's about appealing to people who aren't already following us. So when you make a reel, in an ideal world, we'd be thinking about, ooh, who am I trying to attract? Who's my ideal customer? Who do I want eyes on? Who do I want to follow me? What connections do I want to make before we made it? But in the beginning, just messy action. Messy action is way better than inaction. And you can always go back and delete the ones you don't like later on. So if you feel like, leave them all on your grid to start with, but if you feel like you get better at them and you go, oh God, that one just doesn't fit with the aesthetic, or oh, that one's just like really, oh, I don't like that one at all, just go back, delete it, take it off the grid. Okay, so I'm going to literally start from the beginning. So hi Angela, I'm going to pop you all on mute, and then I will show you exactly on my phone, try and get it without reflection, what I'm doing. So you're going to have the recording of this. Just write down that Angela's here as well. Or you can just follow along live. Okay. So obviously you're going to need to open Instagram. So there we are. And you may already know that in order to make content, you need to go to this little plus in the rounded square at the bottom. Tell you what, I'm going to make me the biggest picture. Okay. So yeah, this button here is where you will add things to your Instagram. If you press it, you'll see it gives you the option to add a post, a story, a reel, or a live. Now, we will cover the other things in the session tomorrow evening. If there's any of that, we're not going to show how to do all of those, but we'll show why we do all of those. If there's any of those that you also don't know how to do, we can do a separate session, no problem. But for now, I'm going to make sure that the white writing says reel. And I'm going to make one now. So I'm going to go to camera. If you'd already recorded video or taken photos that you wanted included in your reel, you could just tap them, 1 or 2 or 3, take them out again, and then click next. And that would allow you to create a reel from those pre-recorded things or add photos to it. But I'm going to go to camera because I want to do it live. God, this is weird. There's like an infinity thing. Okay. So you'll see there's some things along the top and there's some things along the side and there's some things along the bottom. Okay. These things along the bottom are filters. So you might like to use a filter if you're not feeling, if you want to make it kind of fun and silly, or if you're just not feeling your best, but you don't want to get in the way of just taking messy action. You might just want to pop a little filter on. It's up to you. I don't judge anyone for using filters unless you're trying to pretend that what you're showing isn't filtered. So for example, the one I like is beige and white. And it just sort of makes me look a little bit tanned and makes my teeth look a bit whiter. So you might not have that along the bottom. You might just have a few sort of random ones, and some of them are crazy. Some of them are kind of special effects, like, you know, you see like an old Kodak scrolling sort of thing. But if you want to find your effects, they are the 3 stars on the side of the screen. So if you were to tap that, it would bring up loads of different effects. And if you were to select one of those, you'd be able to see here what it does to you. Okay. If you don't want any, that's the button to hit. So I'm just going to drag that down to get rid of it. And I'm going to use the one that I know I like, which is beige and white. Okay. You can play around with a funny sort of layout thing here, which lets you kind of split your screen and like record one bit and then record another bit. But for today, I think just keep it simple. Almost the more gimmicky it is, the less likely you are to do it and the busier it is to look at. You know, you'll see in a minute that there are loads of different fonts you can use and things, but actually there are 2 that are the easiest to read, and you should pretty much just only use those. There is a little down arrow here. I am going to talk about the music one in a minute. There is a little down arrow here, and that's going to show you all of the other options that you've got. Woo. So I would say don't worry about any of that right now. Something you can play with when you're confident with making reels, but it's just going to add complication. If you were to press the one at the top, though, that's always showing on your screen, the audio one, it's going to bring up different music and different audio options. I don't add it at this stage. I add it afterwards. The only exception to that is if I'm trying to lip sync to something and then I need it to be playing as I'm recording. But again, that's not for this session. That's like when you're making reels on the regular and you're really confident and happy with the basics, then you can start to explore some of that, because it takes so much longer. It's so much more frustrating. Don't put yourself off by going with that first. So as with anything in Instagram, you just drag it down to get rid of it. So I'm still on this initial reel page, and I'm going to pop my little filter on that I want. And then I am just going to record myself drinking my tea. This is what people call a B-roll. Have you all heard, just nod or raise your hand if you've heard of B-roll? No. Okay, so B-roll is things like this. And you'd leave a little bit of negative space for you to write your caption. It's not really telling you anything. It's me going about my daily life. B-roll might be, I did one the other day, making the bed. B-roll might be leaving your camera propped up somewhere and just walking past it. I know it sounds really silly, but they're great to have just some filler. So you're not actually kind of, so some reels will be like, oh, let me take you through my evening skincare routine. And you'll record little bits of it. And you'll record multiple videos and you'll splice them together and all the rest of it. And I will show you how to do that if you want to know. It's not as difficult as it sounds. But they take a lot longer. So it's quite nice if you're just doing something. Maybe you've done your makeup and your hair one day and you're feeling good and you think, do you know, I'm going to film myself going to sit on the sofa. I'm going to film myself taking a sip of coffee. I'm going to film myself folding some towels. I'm going to film myself making the bed. You know, you want it to look nice stuff. I'm going to film myself brushing my hair. I'm going to film myself, I don't know, you may or may not want to put your children in things. I don't tend to, but lots of people do. So just collect some videos of you doing inane things, everyday things, making sure that when you film them, you've always left a blank space for some writing to go. That's a really good tip to kind of like bank a bit of content. And you can save all those videos. You don't video them in Instagram, you just video them from your camera on your phone. Saving them in an album just called B-roll is a great way to always have something to be able to use. You know, it could be pulling the dead leaves off a plant. It could be anything. You'll find as you go about your daily life, you'll think, oh, I'm pouring hot water into this teacup that I quite like. I'm just going to film that. And reels ideally should be 7 to 13 seconds. Those are the ones that perform the best. You will definitely have longer ones, and that's fine because you'll need to deliver more information in some. But bearing in mind that the purpose of a reel is to have people look at you and go, oh, I want to know more. They are not going to sit and watch a long thing if they don't know you already, on the whole. So B-roll, and it can be, you'll have seen these like tiny mini ones where they're just repeating. That's actually a trick people use to get lots of views. The more views you get, the more the algorithm shows your content. So you could do a 1 minute, a 1 second reel, and the video would just play and play and play and play and play and play several times in the duration of the reel, and it would show as multiple plays. But I think don't get too gimmicky because people also see through that a little bit, but aim for 7 seconds. It's a nice amount of time for someone to, but don't like get upset if it's 15 seconds, that's fine. Even a minute, that's fine. Just not all the time, okay? So I'm going to film it now. It's like super cringy. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that I've got some space on the screen where I don't want my washing in the background, where I'm going to be able to write something and it's going to be clearly visible, okay? So to film, by the way, you just press this button. And if you need to turn your camera around, that makes it point the other way. That makes it point towards you. Okay. That's it. Okay, so you can see I have done a little bit of pink around that white wheel on the bottom. Can you all see that? Yeah, that's how much of the initial allocated time of a reel I have used up. You can use all of that up and then add more. So it's a bit, what's the word? Can't think of the word. But it's not, you're not held to it. But it's not a bad thing to aim for when you're learning to do reels because keeping them short is a good thing. So I'm actually going to leave that short, okay? Got people messaging me saying, I want the replay as I'm actually doing this. Okay. So there we go. I'm now going to click next. And that shows you what I filmed. And it'll just loop it round. Now you can have a nice gulpy sound. Listen. And I don't want that gulpy sound. I want to put some music on it. Or I could do a voiceover, or I could do someone else speaking something. You know, there's a lot of funny ones that go around that you can spot. But I think keep it simple. Either do you speaking or put some music over it. And I'm going to use the music notes at the top to do that. That opens up this screen. It makes a real difference if you use trending audio to any other audio. Has everybody heard the term trending audio? It basically means that the audio is trendy right now. So the algorithm likes people to use trending audios. It will show it to more people. The way you know is it will have a tiny little arrow. Do you see? So this one, no, 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 yes. Tiny arrow going up. Yes, tiny arrow going up. Can you see that? Arrow, arrow, no arrow, not trending, not trending, arrow. You can search for other things and you can save, little tab here. That's where you'd go to see audio that you'd saved. But again, don't worry about that right now. That's just if you see someone else's one, you go, oh, I like that. I'll save that. Okay, so I'm going to pick something trending now. I don't know what any of these sound like, but I can play a little bit by just pressing the play button at the side before I commit. So I'm going to find one that is an up arrow. The first one says vibey birds of a feather. I think I'm going to like that, so I'm going to play it. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that. So I'm going to click on the writing. And it's just laid it over the top of my reel. But I don't think that's the best bit of that music. So I can actually scroll and choose a different bit of the song. I like that. So I'm going to click done. And here we are. No more gulping, just music. There's one more element I'm going to add, and that is some writing. Oh my gosh, the loop just absolutely kills me. Let's turn the sound off. So writing, you go to this big A, little a at the top, and you tap it to add your text. Okay. So I am going to write, take a moment. And I can make it bigger or smaller, up to me. These things down here will affect how the text looks. So this one, the filled in A, it toggles it to look different. So depending on the font, it will make it look different ways. I quite like it to just be plain. I quite like plain fonts. If you ever lose that, you could just tap on it again and it brings it up. Ooh. Yeah, around here. I want it to be center aligned, but you could, I make it bigger. Make it bigger and smaller here. You can choose the alignment with these ones. So it could be left aligned, right aligned, or center aligned. Because I'm going to fit it in this side, I'm going to right align it. This kind of sparkly A does all different things depending on what font you've chosen. So I never use any of those because I'm not a real kind of sparkly girl, but you can have a little explore. You can always undo them. So it's always quite fun to have a little look. Same goes with the staggered A. It gives you different effects. So for example, you can have typewriter, which will make it look like it's scrolling. I don't really like those either on the whole, so I probably don't tend to use those. So I'll go back to the X and take that effect off. The colourful one is obviously colour. So you can choose from any of the colours that are already in here, or if you select the little paint dropper, I could pick out a colour. It's not the most colourful reel I've ever done. I could pick out a colour from my jumper and match it in. So if you have, like, let's say you are, and then just click done for that. Let's say you're a massage therapist and you have your towels a colour, and you want it to all kind of look lovely and match. Well, you could, and your towels are in the picture. Let's say you've got like plum coloured towels or something, or teal coloured towels. You could use that pipette to pick the colour, and then your writing will coordinate. It just makes it look really nice and branded. Or it might be like, I use quite a lot of pink and coral and red in one of my accounts, and I will often wear something that colour and then pick that out and use it for the writing. But equally, I also really just like white. It stands out. So I'm probably going to keep white. Now, something very important. Can you see lines appearing on the screen? Horizontal and vertical lines as I move this around. See, to the side, and the side, and the top. That shows me where I need to keep my text if I don't want it to fall off the screen. So I don't mind having stuff in front of my face. I probably wouldn't have it there. It's hard to read. I am actually going to make that a little bit smaller, which you can also do just by pinching. And I'm going to pop it there. It's like not the world's best reel, but it's okay. Now, if I wanted to make some changes, like not have that on all the time, I would go down to Edit Video. Edit Video is going to allow me to trim bits of that. So, sometimes you do a video, you've got half of you go reaching forward to turn it on. You don't want that in your reel. So here, you can actually drag and crop your video. You can do other things as well, but I think we'll leave it at that one. So you would just drag the end in and it will just cut the end off for you. You can see my music is in there. And you can see the text I've added is in there. If I click on that, I can decide how much of this video that text appears for by doing this, dragging. So now if I bring this right to the beginning of the video and I press play, you'll see the text disappears at the time I don't want it. Now, if I want to add another bit of text, like let's say I want to say, take a moment, you deserve it, then I can go to the video, scroll along where the text isn't there anymore, tap my finger on the picture, tap my finger on the A's, and type my next thing. You deserve it. And I might move it down here. Watching, see that line appear? Doesn't want me to go much lower than that. And I'm going to change it to a left align. And then I'm going to go and just say, I'm just going to edit that video and just check I'm happy with that. And you can see now one bit of text, take a moment, is up to here. The next bit of text, you deserve it, is too long. So I'm going to edit where that text appears. And I'm just going to check how it all looks. See? So now I've got my, turn the sound down so you can't hear it. So now I've got my, now I've got my video, my music, which has taken off my gulping sound, and my text, and I've got text, different bits of text on different bits. If I wanted to add another bit of video, I could go down here, oops, and I could click add clips, and I could now record another one. Add next bit on. But I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to X out of that. I'm just going to keep it really simple, short reel, drinking tea, take a moment, you deserve it. You know, maybe the caption might be, if tea's not your bag, book a massage instead, or something. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So it's almost time to publish. Any questions on any of that so far? No? Okay. So to move on, I'm going to press the blue circle. And it's giving me a chance to write a caption, do some other stuff, and preview what it's going to look like on my grid. Now, bear in mind, reels are portrait rectangles, and the grid currently is squares, although apparently they are going to change it to rectangle. It's better to keep creating content in the rectangle shape, because if they do change it from squares, it's going to look horrible if you've only got squares and white gaps. So if you're not happy with that for your front cover, let's say your front cover is like you go, because you're in the middle of something, you think, well, that's going to look awful. Go to edit cover. You'll see up here, you've got cover and profile grid. This is what it's going to show. This is what it's going to show as when somebody watches your reel. So that's going to be the front cover that they see. So you can scroll along here and pick. There you go, eyes closed. That's not ideal. So do I want this one where I'm smiling, you deserve it? Do I want, I mean, I quite like the beginning, so I'm just going to probably go with the beginning. I look a little bit moody, maybe if, oh yeah, I move it a little bit in, I look a bit friendlier. I'm looking a bit severe in the beginning. Okay, I'm going to have a look on my profile grid and see what that's going to look like. Because sometimes, God, this is so annoying, it's like pink and blue thing. I don't know what's happening with it. Sometimes some of the writing's cut off, so I might say, well, I don't want it like that. Either I don't want any of the writing, I just want a mysterious mug and a chin. That's kind of cool. Or I want all of the writing, but you can play with that too. I'm going to play with it like that. I'm going to have it like that. And when I've chosen the one I want, I click done. Only one more thing to do now, and that's a caption. Now, there's loads and loads of debate about, do you need a hashtag? Do you not need a hashtag? How many hashtags is too many? Should you use the same hashtag or should you not use the same hashtag? The CEO of Instagram says that hashtags don't matter. So if what's holding you back from posting reels or posts is, oh God, hashtags are such a pain in the ass, don't do them at all. Instagram is now reading your captions. I mean, it sounds like creepy, but it can help us. It's reading our captions. It's looking at what's on our grids, what's in our videos to help it direct who might want to see that content. So don't overthink it. However, it probably won't hurt if you want to put like 2 or 3 in. The first one should be the one that it is most about. You don't necessarily want to use hashtags that have 15 million or 628 million hashtag uses, because you're going to get lost if someone's searching on that hashtag. You also don't want to use ones that have less than 100, and it will tell you when you type them in. It will tell you when you type them in what the situation is. So don't use less than 100 because they never appear in searches. Don't use ones that are absolutely massive, but it would make sense to use Neil's Yard Remedies, even though that is a massive one, or organic skincare. I've actually got quite a few people over the years through using hashtag organic skincare. But I probably wouldn't use Sarah's massage because nobody cares. No one's going to look for that. Captions, you might want to do, I think if you like emojis, use emojis. If you don't like emojis, don't use emojis. Don't overthink it. Doesn't have to be the cleverest thing you've ever done. People say, keep it short. Other people say, no, people read long captions now. Put loads of info in there. They're reading them. And write whatever you want to write. Don't let it be the thing that stops you doing it. Okay. So I have this little thing where I like to do this at the beginning. It's like a little thing I've done for years now. And I like to write it in capitals with a space between. I don't know. So I am going to call it downtime, but you might not do a title. Most people don't. And I'm not even sure it's a good idea to do it because people usually just read the first line and decide if they want to read it. But now it's a thing I do. I continue to do it. So I'm doing downtime. Even taking the time for a cup of tea can feel like too much some days. But trust me, it's worth that 5 minutes of you time. Feel more yourself. That's what I'm putting. And then I'm going to put a couple of hashtags. So I'm going to say like time for tea, which is probably like 440,000 posts. Yeah, maybe I won't put time for tea. I think I'll put time for you. Time for yourself. Time for you. Time for yourself. That's 200,000. That's probably the most I would ever want to go to. Take a break is going to be huge. So self-care is going to be huge. Self-care, 2.5 million. Okay. Self-care can be simple. Over 100 posts. Like it. I can't think of another one, so I'm just not going to put anything. So that's what it's going to look like. Now, again, in Instagram, you often just drag down to get back to where you need to. So if we drag that down, I've got everything set up. If I needed to tag people, I could do it there, but there's no one else in it. Audience is everyone, profile display, main grid, and Reels grid. I'm not going to add a location. It's on to share to Facebook. I can talk about how to do that in another session. And I'm going to click share. Oh, there's Shay. So you can see up here at posting. You need to leave Instagram open when you are posting. Okay. So I'm going to go to my grid and wait for it to pop up. There's my grid. There it is. Now what you can do with that, you can't add anything on your grid to highlights. But it is going to appear on your grid and in your Reels grid. So these are just the Reels you've made. Over here are the Reels, the lives, the posts, the pictures, the carousels, which is just lots of pictures one after the other in a single post. So yeah, you can pin ones to the top if you want, just by going on it, clicking the 3 little dots. And you can say, I'm going to pin to my profile. So then no matter what I upload, that's always going to be up there. I quite like to do that with things, I'm going to just undo that, but I quite like to do that with things that are like, what do we have in common? Or, you know, things that are really key to like, start here, or hi, I'm Rosie, or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. So that people who come to your grid are seeing the things you want them to see first. Or if you have a reel that does really, really well, and you can see how many views you have if you go into your Reels tab. Two views already on that. And so you might say, cool, that was a good one. I got like 5,000 on that. I'm going to pin that to the top of my Reels. So yeah, there we go. That is how you make a reel. If you want to share it to your stories, you simply click on it, and there's loads of like really cool and clever ways to share to stories. And people say like, oh, don't just share your Reels to your stories. And I'm like, that's great. I don't have time to do something really elaborate. I'm just going to share my stories to my Reels to my stories, and it's fine. So to share it, that's to like, to comment, and to share, and that's to save. So to like, to comment, to share, to save. Sharing, and it will say add to story. And then you can make it bigger or smaller. You can write something else as well. I'm going to say the reel from my course today. And I'm going to put it in bright pink and I'm going to give it the backing. And then you just click there for it to go to your stories. Then if people were watching your stories, it would appear. That makes sense? Yes, Angela, we have got a couple of minutes. So if you wanted to ask about hashtags, go for it. You can unmute.
Yeah, when you're looking at hashtags and you maybe do you make something up, or and you said you click on one that's maybe got X amount of like a value attached to it, maybe it's a couple of thousand. But if I was doing one, like I tend to say like time to relax, you're right. But is there something, is it meaningful just to put in something that's only relative to me if no one else has seen it before? Have you got to start your own hashtags?
No, because hashtags with under 100 tags will never be shown in a search.
Okay. Right, okay.
So unless you're like, I'm going to make this a hashtag, I'm going to commit to it for like a year and then it will be a hashtag. But if something's really specific, no one's ever going to be looking for it. But you could do, where do you live in Scotland, Angela, again?
Inverclyde, so it's near down from
You could do
Glasgow.
holistic Inverclyde or massage Inverclyde. There might be just over 100, but people might look for that. Or Inverclyde, I don't know, organic massage. You know, you just never know, that might come up. But creating your own one is only really worth doing if you think you're going to get people looking for it and you're going to post it every single time and see and commit to it for like a year to get it into the hashtags. And then it's like, well, people aren't looking for it. What was the point? The other thing you'll hear a lot about is hooks. Hooks are something that makes someone want to keep watching your video. So where I've done, what did I say? Take a moment. That's not necessarily a great hook. But again, messy action. Just take action. Don't think too much about it. When you get confident and happy with making reels and you're just like, yeah, I'm popping one of these out a day. Actually, if you want to grow your account, you're supposed to do 3 a day. Oh, who has time for that? But when you're really kind of happy and confident, you're kind of popping them out and you're enjoying it, that's when you want to start think about making your hooks a little bit smarter. So things like everything changed when I tried this, or massage therapist, do you do this one key thing? Or, you know, and so it's doing, or number 3 is my favorite. So they're going to watch the video, because Instagram not only likes numbers of views, it also likes how long someone has watched your video for. But for now, if you can't think of an interesting hook, it's cool. It's fine. Just take action. If your video is short enough, probably won't matter that much anyway. Okay. So yes, looking in the Lynn, no spaces in the hashtag. That is correct. You must have it all without spaces, otherwise it won't count. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope that was helpful. I'm going to distribute the recording to you guys, and then anyone else who's asked for it as well, and it will be available for a week. But thank you for joining me in my first Reels session.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you
so much.
Bye
Thanks.
now.
Bye.
Bye.